Hey everyone, Genome here, and welcome to another episode of Creators Notes. I was looking back through some of my videos, my older videos just happened to be the other day, and we've been at this well over a year now. So congrats, gents. I don't even know when our anniversary is, but we're still going strong, man, and the critics said we wouldn't make it a week. So let me just going over here to make sure we're looking all right. There it is. All right. Let me pop the chat out real fast, and then we'll go ahead and get on to introductions. Everyone knows the august panel that I'm with here. We got, of course, the ambassador of Comicdom over there himself, Metarog, mustache bristling with anticipation for this new show. Of course, the ever Buddhist-looking Comic Head 84 is down there below, genuine reflecting.
What looking?
Kind of Buddhist looking. You got that Buddha smile upon you.
Oh,
there.
Buddhist.
I kind of want to come up and rub your belly for luck. So I think it's luck. Anyway, and of course, we have everyone's favorite curmudgeon. Well, according to Roger, I think Dave's a capital fellow myself. Mr. Miracle. Dave, how you doing this night?
I'm great. I don't know why they think I'm a curmudgeon. I'm nice. I just have opinions. And my opinions are correct. And if you don't agree with my opinions,
just ask Todd McFarlane. Yep.
Just ask Todd McFarlane.
And
if you don't agree with my opinions, I really don't care.
I noticed another Greatest Notes first is Dave is proudly rocking his Montreal Canadiens hat there. So
That's right.
Well done. I still have my Patrick Waugh rookie card around here somewhere. I don't know, but
pronounce it correctly.
Not too many of us do. Of course, I mispronounced it until about the age of 20 or so. But one of my bosses was Canadian, and him and his son, I used to watch hockey with them. He's like, "It's Waugh. Quit saying Roy. You're embarrassing me." But anyway, hockey notwithstanding, let's go ahead and say hello to the chat. Mr. Ambassador, would you like to do the honors? Because you seem to have everyone's names completely memorized, and you have a little quirk for each of them.
Well, I love this community, and
I set something up.
I try to follow as much of it as I can. I wish I could follow more, but there's only so many hours in the day, right? But
True.
Definitely we have one of the best and most knowledgeable chats in the business. No doubt about that. Coming in here very early on, Alex Big Blue, big supporter of all of us from Kentucky, one of my favorite guys. What a gentleman he is. Speaking of knowledgeable, Jackson Roy Kirk, although he says he couldn't find this issue, trust me, he will find a way of making some great input and output into this Creators Notes for sure. We got David Wyatt. Where did he come from?
I don't know.
Ryan Magic Lasso, again, very knowledgeable, especially when it comes to Wonder Woman. He's having a contest right now that we should all enter because it's got some good stuff coming out of it. Beta Ray Jim recently found one channel which is really moving up in the charts, if you know what I mean. And of course, our panel is fifth grader, Unruly Simeon, as always with the peace sign, always trying to bring that love and understanding to the community.
Nothing worse than old comic book hippies. All right.
I can't. Let's take the old out of that one. Mark Knapp, my moderator extraordinaire, who's also having a contest on right now, and Comic Mad Musings from Arizona. Man has just got more hauls than I can count.
I know. He's having this every day going on live stream.
Like, well, I just found this from a year ago, But great guy, great supporter. He's constantly in all the chats that I ever see. Matt Woods is in here. Thank you for stopping by. He's getting to be one of our stalwarts here on
Best comic room in the business, too, by the way.
Oh, man, it's good. It's good, for sure. And Super Russ is showing up, my buddy from North Carolina. How you doing, buddy? I hope it's not raining too hard over there. And who else? James Gallegos from New Mexico. Must be like 100 and something down there. But James is another one of those ubiquitous chat superstars. He's everywhere and knows his stuff for sure. Comic Head, right over here.
That's me.
Mr. Miracle, right over there.
That's me.
And let's see. Where was by lunchtime? Our friend from Australia. How you doing, buddy? He's probably up early to see us, is I think the way that the time goes.
Yeah, he's in the future. He's visiting from the future. We'll call him Kang.
Damien, all the way from Oregon. One of the best voices, the calming, the way he's very, very demonstrative. Loves his comics. And he found a great collection in his attic, which I'm like, I wish I could. find those comics.
Kind of collection of like mice up in mine.
The educator extraordinaire from the West Coast as well. I hope you guys are all being safe down there. BTC Moon Guy. I think he was here 2 weeks ago as well. Welcome and great to have you here on Graders Notes. I hope I didn't miss anybody, but if I did, I apologize. But we got quite a comic this evening to grade or dissect.
Well, great turnout tonight. Packed house, man.
I know.
Good to see you guys.
It's like quadruple my normal viewers. Appreciate everyone coming by. That's just how popular this panel is now. And, it's hard to deny when you're actually, hosting the greatest comic book show currently on YouTube, patent pending. So, we got a oft overlooked classic tonight. And for those of you who wondered what happens when the editor-in-chief takes over penciling duties or writing duties, you're about to find out what happens to that series. And actually, he kind of worked a lot on the first series too as a push and all that. But so we're going to be talking about Secret Wars #2, issue 2. And this one's interesting for a lot of reasons. I picked out this book because I'm a huge mark for the OG Beyonder. He's like one of my favorite characters in all of comics. And retcon, no, that doesn't exist in my world. Beyonder would have wiped it from existence. But the original Beyonder is always a fascinating character to me. And this is one where he takes on an entirely new persona, at least for a couple issues. So I thought it was an interesting one to go over. We'll see if the panel tends to agree with me. So as you all know, who are our faithful audience, we go over 4, technically 5 different categories. We talk about the cover. How good does the cover of the rag look? How does the art within look? Does it match up as well as the cover, or is it better? We talk about the story, how is the not only the penmanship, but the actual workmanship of said writings inside. And finally, we move on to something a little more ephemeral, and that is the concept of the book. Did it bring something new to the table? Was it a great marketing ploy? Whatever. So, and then we give it an overall grade. But the most important grade that we can take down on this evening, and I do write them down for posterity, is the chat grade. So let your voices be heard and grade along with us. Hopefully you all are able to read this. If not, you'll be seeing plenty of it with us tonight. So that's enough of me rambling on aimlessly. Let's just get right into it. And so we always start out with the cover. So why would I deviate from the norm? So in this case, I think I will yield to my betters, to my elders, and ask Roger to go ahead and lead us off. What was your thoughts on the cover here by Mr. Milgram?
The cover. Yes, the cover. Well, at first glance, I thought the cover is effective, right? You have, ostensibly the Beyonder in the middle there, exuding power. There's obviously the city is afire in the background, and you have all these heroes tackling him physically, right? And you have the title down here, I'll take Manhattan, right? But this is really a facade as to what is really going on, at least on a physical level, right? Because really they don't really take him on physically. Well, Power Man and Iron Fist do to a certain degree, but it's really one that's trying to lure you in, thinking this is a great battle issue, although it doesn't say it, but it sure intimates that. But I found when I first saw this cover, I expected some, Secret Wars 1 type action, and it really didn't pan out inside. So I think it's well done as far as bringing your eye to the big, huge figure here who looks like a big baddie, but is not really. He's more of a big buffoon, honestly. But we'll get into that later when we get into the story and the concept. I guess the art is okay. I mean, Power Man's arm here digging through the back of his thigh looks a little bit odd to me. Milgram has always, to me, been fairly average artist, not way up there, and sometimes not even average. The figures are okay, nothing super dynamic. The expression on Mr. Fantastic is a little bit odd and kind of out of character for him. But again, this cover is really giving you an illusion that this is a battle issue that it's really not. So in that sense, I don't like that aspect. I like it to be at least somewhat related to the interior story.
Gobble.
But yeah, but it didn't make me want to buy this issue, so I give it credit as far as impact. But it's nothing special about it. Spidey's in his black suit, but not so inside the story. Again, I go back and forth. It's okay. The trade dress is just okay. It's kind of three-dimensional effect there, but I'll give it a 2.5 just because it lured me in. But man, I really wish that it had been more aligned to the story. But because the story is just so bizarre, I can sort of see why they went this way. So I'll give it a bump up and say 2.5.
2.5. And welcome to the show, Jay. Good to have you. Good to have you. He's my cohort on Friday nights.
Oh, yeah.
Over easy mode.
Well. How you doing, bud?
Anyone here in the chat who's not subscribed to Jay, please get over into his channel and do so. He has some great comic book content out there.
I'll throw his link in
over easy mode, by the way. You got to use the handle. Over easy mode.
Yeah.
I thought I said it once. It's over there. Over easy mode, as in Jay. We all know him and love him as Jay, right? All right, so 2.5. There we go. We have our first serviceable of the evening. I don't have the little clip art to throw up there, but we'll have it there in spirit. Just imagine comic book guy popping up. So, Kenneth, what's your take on this cover? Do you agree with this is like a right down the middle of the road, or is this a little better than average? What say you, sir?
Well, are you able to pop this little doohickey up? All right. Let's have a gander at this thing. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. Let's see. Does that help? No. Hold on.
Scroll it. Yeah, it's probably about as good as it's gonna get.
Right, that's fine. All right, man. The this cover, the more that I spent time looking at it, the more I absolutely hated it. And there's a lot wrong. Like Roger touched on it being deceptive to what's going on in the book. It's downright, it's offensive how misleading this cover is. Black Suit Spider-Man does not appear in the book. So that's silly. All these characters don't appear together at one time in the book. Reed Richards trying to reach out and grab him. Either he's like a ball of burning energy or he's just going to disappear. Better Ray had a good point. Reed knows better than that. So somewhat of a dynamic pose. He probably has the best pose of the bunch, but negative points for it being stupid. The right. Iron Fist and Power Man drawing is just lazy. There's no dynamic poses. It's all very lazy. It's very misleading. The concept is a little, obtuse of what's going on in there and not really lends itself to an action scene, no doubt. But hey, that's why creative people are supposed to get paid for creative decisions. You know what I'm saying? And they fell short on this. The color scheme, if you just look at this as a color study, ugly. The purple to pink to red to then this baby blue yellow up top. It's like little Timmy spilled over his paint cans or something. It's like, what a mess. And you guys know, I'm not like Mr. Harsh Grader. I'm usually, I try to acknowledge things, flaws and its benefits. And I'm not one to throw around 0.5s very lightly. You scarcely get those from me. So when I drop one, I mean it, brother. And this thing earns goose egg 0.5. It does have a decent layout. Like the composition of it is okay. And a better artist with a better handle of the characters in a better scenario, like a different book that it was more relevant. The composition probably could have been handled better. But aside from that, just all the misleading stuff, the lazily drawn, the poor color palette, just like I said, the more I spent time with it, the more I really hated it. And it gets a 0.5 from me, man.
Wow.
0.5.
Good points, Joe. Good points. I agree with all the points. I just don't think it was that severely bad.
Yeah. It's offensive.
It offends his sensibilities.
Sure.
We realize that now. Hey,
how do you really feel about
Yeah, I know, right? Don't sugarcoat it next time, please. You want to talk about Todd McFarlane now or something too, or it seems to be. But anyway, I don't think he gave Todd McFarlane cover that low. I don't think Dave did. So that's saying something there. Welcome to the chat, Graham.
It's not to make fun of a bad artist.
Yep.
I mean, he is, but
well, let's see if I can recover from that flogging there that poor Al Milgrom received. And before I get into the cover too much, I've always considered Al Milgrom kind of like Trimp, like we did before. He's just a workman. I mean, he does everything fairly well, nothing spectacular. He's an excellent anchor. And I'm sure he's a really stand-up guy, according to John Beatty. I think he's talked about it before in his channel. So I'm not sure if he is the guy you usually want work on your cover, though, right? Because that's the thing supposed to grab you. But what he does here kind of does grab you in a way. And whether it's good or not is open for interpretation. But upon multiple viewings of this, if you notice the angle that this is taken from, I almost consider it like you're seeing it through a fallen hero's eyes. Because it looks like someone maybe is on their back and kind of looking up a little bit. It's just a little bit skewed. Whether that's purposeful or not, I don't know. Of course, that doesn't make sense. Well, they can't see the rest of Reed, but maybe he's melted off of the floor. Who knows? But this cover does a lot right as far as getting people to buy the book. Everyone's right. This is a huge bait and switch. Not the first in comics, of course, but this one's pretty egregious. But some things he gets right. Like Spider-Man looks pretty dynamic. That's a Spider-Man kind of pose there. Doesn't make much sense by physics, but most Spider-Man poses don't, right? The whole city in flames looks cool. I mean, the color palette is a little wonky, but I think it's just a cool idea. And then you got basically, the Fantastic Four and teaming up with Power Man and Iron Fist. There's a mix, right? I don't know. It's kind of interesting. And I like the rendition of the Beyonder here. He's like molten power. I don't know if it's fire, but it's energy, what he is. He just looks basically untouchable. Yet Reed is reaching out to touch him. There's some cool things that he did try to do to give this thing depth. It also is a detriment in a way, but like, for instance, we mentioned before where Reed's dynamic pose. I do like how he has his arm wrapped around behind him. It does give some depth to it, and it really gives some substance to Beyonder there. He tries to do it with Luke Cage, but it looks like kind of like when you put a straw in the water and the refraction all there makes it look all bent. His arm looks pretty wonky there. It's a cool idea, though. I like when they do stuff like this. He took a little time. He's even got Sue's leg back there. Spoiler alert, she's not wearing this costume inside. She has a much better one inside, by the way. Color palette is pretty wonky. Pink flames, they probably could figure out another way to make it show up. I don't know, make the buildings blue and then leave the flames reddish or pink or something. Probably worked a lot better. But so yeah, it is weird how the color progression of this whole thing. And then you got the Yo Play covered or concrete down there, which is really strange. But it is what it is. Some of the poses are pretty stiff. Like none of them they all just look a little bit off. You know what I'm saying? And because these are all characters that most of us have seen plenty of times, so you know exactly what they're supposed to look like. So, I mean, other than Reed, you can make it look like whatever you want to. But I mean, Iron Fist looks really, really stiff right there. Some people said lazy. I don't know, but I mean, I like She-Hulk's hair, and Reed's hair looks pretty good too. So I don't know. I'm not going to be as harsh as you guys were with this. I'm just going to give this a serviceable. I'm going to give it 2.5. It's not great or anything, but I've seen a heck of a lot worse. So yeah, I'm just going to go right middle of the road, that 2.5. It does the job.
Well, I gave it the same grade, so I wasn't as harsh either.
Well, Dave just getting ready to go down the sheet.
Oh, crap. We forgot the closers coming up here.
Get him, Dave. Get him.
Get him. Oh, man.
You want me to hold it up for you, Dave? Or?
No. I got the little.
Okay.
You got it.
So, yeah, I'm just looking at a miniature here on my tablet. Wasn't able to come up with the issue. Apparently, it's a big seller out of my LCSs. Anyways, this cover drives me nuts. Like you guys touched on everything. The lying, that this is not right. Like, I have never been an Al Milgrom fan. Al Milgrom is the artist that's the last artist on a book before it gets canceled all the time, right? Like, it's just like, oh, Al, you did it again. He's like bad luck Charlie when it comes to this stuff, man. And I was like this, like, why the pink fire? Why the purple sky on the pink ground? And every building's on fire, which doesn't happen at all. Like no buildings catch fire. Nobody's in there at all.
When I come big,
Full screen.
Full screen.
Full screen.
Gino?
Full screen.
Full screen him.
There we go. Yeah, like the choppy Iron Fist and the weird kind of, I don't know. It looks kind of, like, look where his hand is. Look where Luke Cage's hand is. His arm is like 9 feet long. Like it's coming out the bottom of the Beyonder's leg there. Like, what are you doing, Al? Like what? Like, and the She-Hulk is not left-handed, Al. She's not going to come in with the left. Right, so like he takes a lot of liberties. He's just one of those little things that here and there and here and there and here, and they all just trigger me when I look at this. Like, God darn it, you didn't put on the black suit, on him in the comic, but you got it on the cover. That's a lie, right? Like, the Beyonder never shows up as pure energy, or does he? No, he doesn't even show up once as pure energy in this whole thing, does he? Man, it's just like no bueno. Don't like it. Don't like it. I gave it a 1.5. I got to give it a 1.5 just because, I don't know. I just had to give Al Milgrom a little bit of something. He's not my favorite artist by any stretch, but he does, he's not lazy on the backgrounds. There's like a full city in the background. Mm-hmm. He is trying to put a lot of characters in them. I mean, they're placed weird. They have weird long arms and they're, and weird fingers and stuff like this. He's trying to show us the Beyonder in some sort of fashion. Like, I don't know if he was drawing these covers ahead of time and they were like, the Beyonder's like this weird, crazy being that's like a universe all contained into one thing. And that's kind of, he's trying to convey that maybe. So, I mean, that's a tough concept to convey in itself. So I did give, good on you for giving it the old college try there, Al, but a little bit short, and you got a 1.5 out of me.
All right, 1.5 coming in hot. So scores are in from our august panel here. Pretty mixed score, but nothing really got above mediocre. So not the highlight of this book, but maybe it is. We'll see when we get inside. So let's get into the most important grade of the evening, and that is yours. Yours being the chat. Let your voice be heard and put your scores in now. We will tabulate shortly.
Yeah, man. Al Milgrom.
Yeah, I knew more as an inker.
Yeah, he did. And he did Spectacular Spider-Man for a long time, and it was just kind of like it was so close to being canceled when he was on it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't know. He's definitely. I don't know. Maybe he's somebody's cousin. That's how he got his job. Right? I got a cousin that could draw. Please give him a job.
My guess is, if you show yourself being able to be flexible and to make deadlines, I'm sure you'll stay busy, especially back then in comics when they were moving.
Very true, right? Like if he is reliable, he's able to produce a lot of issues. He doesn't argue with you when you ask him to draw stuff or whatever. Like, yeah, he might be the most pleasant person we've ever could ever walk the face of the earth. We don't know, right?
He is a nice guy. I have met him. He is a very nice guy. Yeah, very nice guy. But
you get that guy in the you get that guy in the office that's like he's not that great at his job, but everybody really likes him. I mean, he's a good guy, so he just kind of hangs in there.
Yeah, he's a very nice guy. I've met him at a con, and I was by him when he was talking to the people. Very, very pleasant. Whenever they come and they talk about his work, he was just very complimentary about thanking them for noticing and all that. Totally opposite of like Neil Adams, for example. Who takes everything out of context.
Yeah, there's something very offensive about this. Sometimes the cover just rubs me the wrong way, man. And
yeah, Kenny, you did not like this one.
Yeah, I really didn't, man. And I'm not even that harsh on grading generally, but boy, the more I stare at it, I'm like, look at this abomination.
What is this nightmare I see before me here?
Getting a lot of scores here.
Are you doing this site I'm seeing there?
I'm actually putting the numbers in now.
Okay,
so.
all right. I'll keep quiet then.
Biggie, I'm gonna do. You're getting 0.5 whether you like it or not, Biggie.
Are you tabulating it, Gino?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just doing it just in case. Let's see. I mean, if I can count all these numbers, let's see.
I like Magic Lasso. I'm going with a 4.0 in the hopes that no one unfriends me.
How dare you?
4.0. 4.0.
Hey, his opinion is just as valid.
Absolutely.
I guess it's not her fault he's drunk, I guess.
All right, you got about 10 more seconds, everyone. So if you have another grade, put it in now. Oh, Steve Whiting coming in.
Hey,
One
with
more.
the 1.0.
I was wondering where Steve was. I was looking for him, and I was like, I know he'll be in here eventually.
All right, last chance.
Yeah.
And looking like it's it. So I'm going to go ahead and tabulate.
We have some of the most loyal chat followers, man. Especially considering that we bounce from channel to channel each time. Like all the homies show up and they follow us to different channels, man. I really appreciate it. Love it, dude.
Yeah, I know. Cause like I said, I didn't ever get this many viewers on my channel unless I do graders notes. So they do. They follow us around. So much appreciated, folks.
Yeah, I'm glad you're fan.
Chat's kind of down there with us. They scored it out of 2. There's actually 16 votes on this one, kind of all over the spectrum. Biggie's, of course, threw the whole number off completely. It probably would have been 2.5 other than him. Thank you a lot.
Well, as did Lassos.
Yeah, that's right.
No, 0.5.
Yeah. It usually does even out. When you get enough votes, it does even out. Yeah.
So, yeah, there it is, man. So, bordering on poor to very average. I think none of us here could ever say this was a super special cover, easily forgettable. I didn't find it too egregious, neither did Roger, but, usually we don't do this bad on the cover. So let's hopefully the book redeems itself within. So, you know what? Let's keep on the whole art kick here. I'm liking where this is going. So, because the same artist takes over inside too. So let's start with Kenneth this time, since this man was coming in fire last time. Let's see what your opinion on this one was on the interior art.
Okay. You asked for it. Let's see. So let's scroll through. So I'm not going to be as harsh on this inside art as the cover, but one thing's for sure is because I'm not super familiar with Milgram. I know of him a little bit, but it makes sense, your guys' description of like, yeah, he's kind of like the workhorse guy, and he's probably good at deadlines, and he's not really special, but he's nice. That permeates through the art of this book, because, man, if the word like serviceable is in the dictionary, it's this stuff. Like the whole, like it reads well. Like everything, when you go from panel to panel, it does at least the job of what a comic book panel by definition is supposed to do, and show you what's going on in the beats of the story. He does that pretty good. However, he does it in the most least inspired way one could do it. Like the whole book is full of flat angles. Like it's all flat angles throughout the whole book. There's really not many like dynamic scenes or poses through the whole thing. I mean, and even though it's not, and we'll get into on the writing side, the story, granted it's not this big cosmic battle, but there's still plenty of chances to do some fun stuff. I mean, there was a riot going on, and there's teleporting and flying around and all opportunities to, like on the last Silver Surfer issue, there was so many times where Buscema is like playing with the camera angle of how you're seeing the panel and what's going on in it, and this guy wouldn't like occur to him, or maybe he's not able to play with perspective at all. Like just a lot of flat angles. It's like, is this a procedural crime drama or soap opera, or is this a comic book story with heroes, scaling buildings and stuff? It's just not a lot of dynamism. Faces change kind of quite a bit. Doesn't have like a firm handle on some of that stuff, but it's like the proportions are okay. Like he is a serviceable comic artist. Like, look at this Spider-Man swinging. Like, this is a perfect example of it's the most basic way to show us that Spider-Man is swinging through the city. A completely flat side angle, straight on, with Spider-Man neatly centered in the middle of the panel, with his little tootsies kicked up in front of him. I've never seen a more boring Spider-Man swinging through a city. So that's the theme here with my review on the art is really just like flat angles, boring, not very inspired at all, but like does the job of, he does tell the story well. I got to give him that. Not once am I confused about what's going on in the panels. He's delivering the information, but that's, we're talking art. Like, he merely delivers the information.
Gobble gobble.
Gobble gobble. I think I've made my point. I gave this one a 2. A 2.
2. Tough but fair. I can dig it. All right, 2. Let me get this unshared. Remove. There we go. I think I will actually go next. Let's just kind of throw things into random chaos. It's like my channel is normally. So here, let me get this reset. Yeah, man. Like I said, Al is a workman kind of artist. And that's not a detriment to him. We can't all be Buscema's. We can't all be Jim Lee's. Just putting out cover-worthy stuff on every page. Some people just don't have that artistic ability, and who knows how much of this he was inking himself too. I know he's got 2 other. He got Rubenstein for one here. But he's got 2 other inkers done on this. But old habits die hard. But I mean, just look at this very first page. The splash page, I think, is excellent. He's got the nice tight little pixelated looking city in the distance. I think it's just a cool perspective shot. I like it, man. It puts a sense of foreboding. It's almost like he's King Kong up there surveying his new jungle. There's a couple spots in there where I think he shows a pretty good command of distance and perspective. Like this panel, there's 4 different basically places these guys are in and furthering distance off. And I think he pulls it off fairly well there. Once again, I can see he likes to do these little tricks of, sorry, I'm doing this without my eyes, put stuff in front of the other character to give, once again, the panel a little depth, even though a lot of them are kind of flat. I don't know. It just, this is like a Spider-Man pose, but it's a pretty dull one. If you look at the background, it's really rough back there. I'm almost wondering if he even did it himself or they added it after the fact. But and like Kenny says, there's no like misshapen or odd size panels in here either. It's all very rote and kind of predictable, right? This guy doesn't want to rock the boat, and you know what? That's not always a bad thing. You do want to see people take a little bit of chances and get their art right, but he's pretty good on banal panels, like something like this. Like we were talking about Buscema earlier, like this would be way more dynamic with Buscema, right? There'd be more bent limbs. The head would be cocked more to the side, and it'd be shadowing in the face or something. But he doesn't do all that, But he just keeps things. I don't know. I like his perspective quite a bit, if not his art itself. So I can give a little credence to that. I had another really basic one. This panel right here, where he's opening a door. That's really hard to get right. And while the wrist might look a little funky, like the doorway looks right and all that, it's just like little panels like that make me kind of appreciate what he did in this book. So I'm going to score it a little bit higher, actually, than I did the cover and give this a 3. This is, once again, remember how I mentioned last week that the book seemed full. Like, it was dense. Like, just not even including what the writing was going. There's a lot of writing in this book, unfortunately. But the book just seems dense and like something that's you don't really see much, especially past the 80s. It got a lot more spare, a lot more Spartan. Things became more defined, but there was less of it. Now you see like bigger groups of people in this, generally speaking, and I don't know. It's okay. I'm gonna give it a 3. It's I say a little bit better than average for the time frame and for a series like this. So I didn't find anything I hated. There was a lot I didn't love, but I could get used to it. I don't think I want him doing a whole series for me, but I have no problem with him running for 10 or 12 issues. So I just give it a 3, a little bit better, a little bit above average.
Okay.
Right. Sorry, I got like 16 windows going on here. So, all right. MCing is not an easy man's game. All right. So let's see if Mr. Miracle himself agrees with any of our dissertations so far. Was this a harsh thing on the eyes inside, or was it absolutely amazing? What say you, sir?
Well, would you mind doing the share thing this time with me, Dave?
Sure. Do you have... I don't have anything in there. You
Never
want
mind.
Kenny's?
Don't worry.
Yeah, you
No,
can
no,
do.
don't worry.
I'll scroll through it.
There you go. Kenny did the rescue.
Can you go back to the first page? This first page kills me. Scroll faster down. There you go. So if you're looking at this first page, right, like where you're standing on top of the World Trade Center, the background in there is a photograph, and he's trying to like ink it up, right? Like, and it just looks like a bad photocopy of a photograph, which it is, right? So there's a few of those scenes in here where there's like city things, but it's actually like photos of building stuff. There's lots that he's drawn. Milgram doesn't have dynamic backgrounds. He has, the static backgrounds, and he's like, well, you could tell they're in a city. You could tell they're in a park. You could tell there's a riot going on with, the 6 people in front, and then the sort of blended out crowd of faceless. That's all faceless in there. He does that a lot. When he gets to farther perspectives, his characters look weird. If you look, there's the one where the hate monger, like they finally defeat the hate monger, and like Sue Storm is really wonky in that picture. So there's lots of anatomy problems throughout this thing. You want to talk about a panel that I hated, is that one. With Peter Parker given the Home Alone, fucking, oh no, I stick them on the Fantastic Four. Right, given like this and then shooting out the door. It's like, come on, is Peter Parker gonna like really do that? Like, oh no, right? He's not Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Anyway, there's lots of dumb stuff like that. There's lots of like, it's weird. He steals a lot of everybody's stuff. Like, all of his character movements are tropes. All of like the energy stuff is curvy. It's all tropes that all artists use. Like, he's just like, I could do this, and he's steady Eddie at it, gets it done. I gave the interior art the same as that I gave the cover. It was not there for me. The coloring was still weird.
Oh,
right?
there's
like, yeah, there it is. Oh no, the coloring was weird. Like this Spider-Man that Kenny was pointing out with his toes pointed up. He's a little bit wonky, right? Like, that's just like, wait, what do you mean? His legs look way too long. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's like he's like does his layout and then he forgets to erase some stuff. He inked in the wrong lines or something. I'm like, oops, made his arm too long. Oh, well, nobody will notice, right? But he gets it done. And what can I say? Yeah, I gave it the same as I gave the cover, a 1.5. Like, I've seen a lot better, especially when you're trying to, Secret Wars was so good with like all the Zack stuff and like some of the craziest like scenes, with Hulk holding up that entire mountain, or Galactus way up in the universe and everything like this. And then you come to this one, you're looking at all these half-baked kind of drawings, and they could have got someone better. If they had someone better and made it more dynamic, and I think that it had the potential, but it just wasn't there. So 1.5.
Unrealized potential. Look at that. It's 1.5. All right. So score is tabulated. That means we have one more speaker to chime in here. Roger, what was your take upon the interior workings here? Were these the scribblings of a madman, or someone maybe a little out of his depth, or was this something that you enjoyed?
I think you hit it on the nose when you said out of his depth. I believe that is exactly how I would characterize this. And I think you guys hit all the points that I was going to make very well. Man, Secret Wars was so well done, you know. Zek and Beatty, I mean, they just knocked that out of the park, you know, with the dynamic poses, the power manifestations, the emotive parts that they gave to the villains, and how they juxtapose with the heroes. And then you have this, which just falls flat. You know, it's not awful. Like Kenny said, I mean, it tells the story well, but so does an infomercial give you the information well, right? But I wouldn't want to see that either. And you know, he's trying to do justice to a story which is honestly tough to do the art for here, because, and I'll go into that when I talk about the story, because that's also very muddy, and some of his pencils seem a little bit loose to me. I think the inkers actually tighten things up. Rubenstein and Leola, I think, tighten things up quite a bit here and there. Some expressions, you know, they just, I think Miracle was saying, it's just rote stuff. It's like, I've seen this in every middle of the road comic, Dazzler, Rom, sorry, Bill. You know, it's just expressions that are overdone or sometimes just inappropriate. Like in Reed Richards, sometimes, you know, he's a more understated guy, but, you know, you see like his mouth open way too much here, you know, like there, it's just odd kind of. And then this melting right here, the melting hate mongor, you know, it looks like there's some kind of protruding, you know, octopus coming off the top of his head. It should be going down, not up, right? I mean, again, it's just not appropriate for, look at the mouth here of Reed, you know, I mean, you know, that's just not the way Reed Richards would talk. He would be very subtle, especially when he's not trying to yell. He's trying to actually explain to Sue why he's paying attention to this being and not her. It should be a little bit more subtle than that. It just seems like he's trying too hard, and in so doing, he really doesn't really get the gist of what the story is trying to portray art-wise. It tells the story, but that is not really what we're looking for here. We want to feel the story. We want to experience the story. And here, it's just very rote. It's very, it's just there. Some of the stances are very angular, and like Kenny said, have no kind of perspective. That your eye doesn't really, you know, go to any kind of way that you're trying to perceive something. It's like plated right in front of you. And that is not terrible, but when it's done constantly like this, it just gets old, and it just doesn't really want the viewer to continue, because the art is just so banal and so ordinary. And in a comic book, it has to be dynamic. It's a graphic medium, so it has to be out there. You have to impact the viewer at some level. And this, it tells the story, but honestly, I do not like looking at this art. It's just there. There's nothing I can say that's terrible about it, but that expression itself sort of tells you that it's not what it should be. It should be knock your socks off, or at least try to. And this doesn't really try to do it. It just sort of tries to get you through the story. It's like Shooter's the star. I'm just the third guy down the line on the bench, you know. And that's what it looks like to me. I can't knock it too bad, because it does relate the story, and that is important, but it doesn't really do much as far as giving you more of an experience for the art. I want to give it a 1.5, but again, it does get you there. It gets you the destination, but boy, you get there bloodied and battered. So I give it a 2.
All right, 2 it is. So we have our scores from the panel here, and now it's time for the 5th score. So let your voice be heard. Do not be silenced. Do not be feared. Don't worry about what Metrog or Dave are going to say about you. If you give us a good score, let it be known. Put it in the chat right now. Poor Al. He's getting a rough time of it tonight.
Poor Al. I don't have many signed comic books, but I have a signed Doctor Strange book of Al Milgram's that I won a prize from. Shout out to I Love Signed Comics. I haven't seen him around too much lately.
I haven't either.
No,
He's doing that content.
Yeah.
He moved and it was like in the middle of the sticks and he had bad service there. So but he's on Instagram. He's a good guy. He's a hot hit.
If you have a question about getting something signed, he actually made a web page that explained everything on how much the guy normally charges, where you can find him at, and everything. So, or whether he'll sign or not.
Yeah, biggest signature enthusiast I've met.
Yeah.
I see a lot of like kind of middling grades here that are popping through, and it seems to be it just reeks of workmanship. This reeks of, here you go, Al, you can't flub this up. Give it to me in 3 weeks. So
it's like you're going from Orlando to Vegas, right? And you're taking a Greyhound. It gets you there, but boy, it's not a comfortable ride at all.
Right. I think it's almost like he forgot this is an artistic endeavor, because you know what it reminds me of is like it's almost like he got commissioned to draw, that little almost like comic book panel layout of when you go on an airplane flight, and it's like, here's how you put your flotation device, here's your oxygen tank. Like it reads like a manual. Like it's effective, but it's not artistic.
Right.
It's IKEA instructions, right?
Oh man.
Yeah, poor Al. That's not very nice.
He's a nice guy. We're not. Listen, this is not personal. This is not indicative of his character. We're just one comic book. Okay, this is a point in time. That's a snapshot. Okay, it's not a career.
Fair enough.
Tabulating as we go, boys. So my quietude.
That's a good. That was a good. Mr. Miracle. That was a good one. That She-Hulk's not left-handed. That was a really good observation. I
never knew what hand Jen had, actually.
I didn't either. That's really, deep diving into, the character there, boy.
Well,
all right, last chance saloon, guys.
I took a look at a couple of She-Hulk comics, and she was leading with her right hand in every other one. So I was like, wait a minute, she's leading with her left. Just didn't want to have her back turned to him.
Yeah.
Al just called you Jackson, did he? Maybe I'll be able to get to interview one day. Like I said, I have connections in the inking communities, and maybe I can get a hold of them. So
yeah, don't show him this episode.
Yeah, until after he signs everyone's books. Yeah.
Al just called me.
supposedly, like speaking of inkers, Coletto's supposedly a super nice guy too, and that man can make a deadline, couldn't he?
I never met him.
He left in a blaze of glory, though. That's for sure. If you've never read that letter before, look that up sometime.
What's that?
When Vince Coletto left Marvel. Oh,
yeah.
He wrote them a letter. It's famous. I'm sure you can find copies of it out there, but
I've heard of it, but I've never read it.
It's a good read. But he was defending like the artists out there. There was decisions being made that weren't conducive to the industry that he knew. You know what I mean? And treating people right. So he had some words about it. Okay, I think that is all the grades. So let me go ahead and tabulate here.
Yeah, Mark said the same thing, Mr. Miracle, that out of all the stores he went to look, he had 1 and 3, but no 2.
Yeah, man. I
tell you, everybody bought it for Graders Notes. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah,
we started an artificial run.
We affect the market,
I'm sure it's on. What is that app? Key Collect. I'm sure it's on there.
Yeah, appeared on Graders Notes September 6th.
Yeah, I'm working on CGC now. Yeah,
that's it.
I'm digging it, man. I'm digging it.
Get our own little icon. Hero.
Yeah, we'll get our own little label thing appeared on Graders Notes. Hey, part of the Mile High pedigree appeared on Graders Notes.
Yeah, hopefully we get some residuals out of it then. That'd be sweet.
As seen on Graders Notes. Okay,
so this is a pretty rare occurrence. I'm actually I'm gonna have to round up here. It's a 2.285. So
285.
Looks like a 2.5 to me. So
wow,
that's pretty close. So they hit it right on serviceable.
Cool. All right.
Yep.
All right.
And once again, I think it's mostly in keeping what we're talking about.
Yeah.
like I said, and none of us here, other than Kenny on the cover, really found anything too egregious. Just some of it was kind of boring. If boring is the worst you can say about it, it's not terrible. It's just that nothing here is all that exciting. So, all right. So let's talk about something that may get more exciting. I don't know. Let's talk about the story within this book. And Dave, I think we'll let you lead off on this one because you look like you're raring to go or getting ready to go to sleep. It's one or the other. I'm not sure which it is. So what was your thoughts?
All right. The story of this book did not make sense to me. I was like, just poorly executed, this whole thing. Like, there was some stuff. Okay, it started out pretty good, I guess. The Beyonder wants to become human and, find out how humanity, lives their life. All right, Pinocchio, do your thing. He's like, yeah, like super galactic Pinocchio. So he's going along and he's, why do people wear clothes? Why do people eat? Why does my body hurt when I fall off a 40-story building? All this dumb stuff. Why does it hurt when I eat glass? And I was just like, this guy's telepathic. He has all the abilities in the universe. Why isn't he just like, who's this guy? Like, telepath his brain and just upload everything and get caught up like right away. Like, he'd just be like, oh, that's what people eat. Oh, you don't eat glass. You don't, No, they make him like the super dumbass, naive, like, I just got to walk around and like physically talk to people and figure stuff out. Like, even talking to him would be weird. You know what I mean? Like, unless he became a human form and uploaded half a brain to somebody and the rest of it wasn't. And then, shadowing Spider-Man was weird. The way Spider-Man acted was weird. Like, when he's confronted with the Beyonder, he's like, what is this guy? This guy's a jerk, even though he's setting off my spider sense like crazy. Everything's going fine. And all of a sudden he's teleporting from floor to floor. Supposed to have a twin brother. I'm like, come on, Spider-Man. You've been dealing with these guys for a long time. Like, put 2 and 2 together here, man. Like, Peter Parker is not a stupid. He's like, okay, the first time his spider senses would have went off and the guy came at him, I'm 100% sure Peter Parker would have turned around and confronted him, right? Like, whoa, what's going on with you, dude? What's happening? Why are you, it didn't seem like the guy was attacking him. He's met lots of superheroes that have set up his spider senses as well. Anyways, he sends him off to the Fantastic Four, and I was like, they better not make Mr. Fantastic so stupid. But as soon as the Beyonder shows up, Mr. Fantastic's like, hey, you're the Beyonder. I'm like, okay, right? Like, he's the top dog when it comes to smarts. So that was good. But then there's this weird thing where they're trying to just bait you to buy more comics, right? And they're like, let's have a little bit of this weird hate monger, Psycho Man story, but not tell anybody what happened, and then we'll catch you up later. So you have to go by Fantastic Four. I can't remember what number it was, 242 or something. And so I was like, stop with this like weird understory that's trying to get me to buy other comic books, and just deal with the story at hand. But that's something we'll catch up with in the concept part of it, and I got some things to say about the concept part of it. But so as the story is going along, they do the thing that I hate the most in a lot of comic books. They just bounce you around. They don't complete anything. They bounce you around. There's no real conclusion. I guess Shooter is trying to convey some sort of like get you to feel like the Beyonder, like you're confused in this strange land, or he's pandering to children, which is like, yeah, look, the Beyonder's eating glass, right? Like, it's just, it wasn't what I did. I read the first story, and it's like all these superheroes and all these supervillains get put on a battle world, right? And it was literally called Battle World, and everybody fought on this thing, and it was like, yeah, right? Like, but you get this one, and it's like, let's go skip around with Naive, Pinocchio, the naive boy here, and try and figure out why people eat or why you wear clothing. Come on, man. Like, ask a little bit more relevant questions. Like, you could have gone to Mr. Fantastic and be like, why is there multiple dimensions into the existence of this? Like, he could have just talked off and like some sort of thing. And he would have at least, stuck around for more than 2 seconds to get an answer out of Mr. Fantastic. I did like the bag lady sort of bit that they put in there. They got most of his information about humanity in this comic book from the bag lady. But yeah, it was a weird story. Like, it was just jumping around, and it just seemed a weird way to put a whole bunch of superheroes, as many superheroes as we could get, because Secret Wars 1 had a ton of superheroes, right? So he's got to figure out a way to get his superheroes, a ton of them, into Secret Wars 2 to satisfy the masses. Anyways, I give the story a 1. I was not impressed with it. Could have been, it's a good concept, but it could have been like executed better in a lot of ways. So yeah, 1.
All right, we got our 1 for this evening. So your lowest score yet, my friend. Oh, what are we to do? What are we to do? Let me put that right there. All right, let's see. Who do I want to go next? Roger looks like he's rocking and rolling down there. So you don't need no rocking chair, a la George Jones. So go ahead and tell us there, Roger. What was your thoughts upon the story within?
You know, I don't even know what my thoughts are about this, Gino. It is so confusing and so disjointed. Is this a satire on human existence? Is this a parody? Is this a lesson in existentialism? What? I mean, what is he trying to convey here? Is this? It's like God incarnate, but unlike Jesus, who's trying to bring knowledge, he's trying to find knowledge in humanity. Is that a juxtaposition of his beliefs? What? I don't get it. It's a journey that is so it's so absurd that honestly I don't know what goal of this story was. In the first Secret Wars, he brings these people in because he wants to observe what desire and emotion and all this. And yet it's like that never existed. He doesn't know. He doesn't have any foundation at all. Doesn't even know what gravity is. But yet there was on Battle World. People ate on Battle World. People. It's like he wants to. Shooter is shoehorning in this naivete where it shouldn't really be. I mean, if he wants to talk or explore the human existence, then let's do that. Let's look at the relationships at a deeper level. Let's look at politics. Let's look at the emotional states of the different peoples and the different situations and how they interplay. But here it's almost like there's subtext of absurdity and childishness here that is so off-putting to me. You know, like when he eats something and he smashes and he tries to eat a bottle, like Miracle was saying, we're talking about an omnipotent being who can read minds, and yet he can't. Is his human experience so raw that he can't do that because he can somehow be tainted by it? It just doesn't make any sense. And then, you know, when he had the most absurd thing is that one where he's, you know, having a bowel movement, and he asked Spider-Man what this is. It's a biological function. You know, it's one. You don't have to know what it is. It's going to happen. You're telling me he doesn't know that is occurring? Oh man, I tell you, I think I give credit because I think Shooter is trying to elicit a response from us, to sort of look inside ourselves and see what is humanity to us, right? Is it this conflagration of experiences, both good and bad, or is it existentialism? Is it our existence, our point of view of it? But I don't know. It is so muddy and so absurd that I cannot make heads or tails of it. I'm not kidding. I just don't know. I am totally befuddled by what the goal here is. He kept saying that there's multiplicity and diversity and incompleteness. And he's absolutely right, because this story is ripe with incompleteness, diversity, and multiplicity of what I don't know, but it's full of that. Again, the dialogue just keeps repeating and repeating over and over, and he's trying to find a meaning in clothing. It's so bizarre. It really, honestly, I know that later on, I think issue 9 sort of coalesces a little bit of the culmination of the whole experience, but getting there was harsh. I mean, just doesn't make really logical sense that a being like this has no foundation whatsoever, especially with Secret Wars 1, when he was observing them. The whole purpose he took them there was to observe them. He didn't learn a thing. 1.5, only because I think the exploration of humanity is a really good concept in a story for a being like this. But the execution of it was absolutely bizarre and absurd.
All right, coming in low on Roger's end, 1.5. It is still 0.5 higher than the previous graders, so we're on an upward trend. So let's see if the uptick continues here. So Kenneth, my friend, what was your take upon the a magnificent journey of the Beyonder Within? Let us know.
Yeah, very strange book. And I was telling these guys earlier, I've read Secret Wars 1, and then I read the Secret Wars Hickman God Doom story. So that was like my framework of Secret Wars. And then I read this, and I'm like, what is this? It's so weird. It's almost like if for fans of the Super Mario video games, you play Super Mario 1 and you play Super Mario 3, and they're both Mario games. But part 2 is this weird-ass game that doesn't fit with the other two, and it's like absurd and weird. That's what Secret Wars 2 is. It's the Super Mario Brothers 2 of the trilogy, or whatever you call them. There's pros and cons to it, though. I think it's funny that in reading this, like I was just thinking about something similar to this. I was just hearing a conversation about people talking like, what if aliens actually arrived to Earth, and with their alien technology and all that stuff, and it would be so shocking to us, but how long would it be until we thought that that was normal? Like, how long would it take for us to normalize aliens and spaceships and teleporting and all that? Probably pretty quick, because we're pretty adaptive. And just like the stuff we already take for granted, like the bizarre kind of stuff. If you go outside, there's a big burning orb in the sky, the sun, and just all the weird things that we take for granted, just part of our Earth. So to read this, to see someone kind of coming into, the maybe somewhat bizarre nature of reality that we have as humans, that, another being is looking at it like, what the hell? Like the fundamental things we take for granted, looking at it with fresh eyes, I was like ready for this, because I was just kind of thinking through this kind of thing before. So I was having fun with that, following along his little misadventures and him questioning like I said, it's like existentialism. I was finding that pretty fun. If you stop for 1 second and ask yourself any sense of logic, it goes off the rails right away. Like, he's the Beyonder. What about Secret Wars 1? Don't you know what's going on? Like, how the hell don't you know what's going on? And his powers, he could read Spider-Man's mind that he thought he wished he wore his black costume. So he can probe minds and grab information in real time, but he can't figure out that you're not supposed to eat glass and what peeing is and all that stuff. So the logic breaks down completely. The way the heroes act is weird. Although I did like Reed Richards' like fascination with Beyonder, and he's like, damn it, Sue, I wanted to pick this guy's brain. He's a god. Like, I love that aspect of Reed being like, oh man, bummed out. He's like, I want to pick this guy's brain. Like, he would be fascinated by that. But he's probably the only guy that acts really characteristic. And it's almost like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode, where it's like this like, oh shucks guy, like everyone's around him like, what are you doing? I had some legitimate laughs. I was amused by some of the panels, like, so the small story beats I thought were fun and interesting. But like I said, the minute you zoom out just a little bit and kind of ask yourself what's going on here, it really falls apart. So it's confusing. It's weird as hell. But there was some charm to it, actually. I found some charm to it. I thought it was a pretty fun read. I thought it was well written, and he didn't fall to the pitfalls of guys that don't know how to use thought bubbles, word balloons, and narration boxes. There's an art to when you use which ones, and they were used effectively here. I don't want to point examples because my time's over, but that was kudos to that, because not every writer understands what to put in which one. Sometimes people are saying what they should be thinking, or thought balloons are doing what narrating blocks should do. This was well structured writing. I give it I can't give it too high of a grade. It's more like weird and enjoyable, but I give it a 2.5. Give it a 2.5.
Well, I don't think there's anyone among us that couldn't say Jim knew how to formulate a comic book. The man started in the business at 13, so
Yeah,
he knew it made him tick. It doesn't mean they were always enjoyable, but all right. So 2.5. So we got a serviceable from Kenneth today for your first one. All right.
yeah.
Going up. The trend's up.
Yep, we're still ticking upward here, so it's time to buy. When that IPO hits, it's going to take off. So, okay, I guess it's my turn here. Let me get this going here and get this going there. Before I really get started, Dave, I am always loath to give you any kind of credit whatsoever, but I do have to give you credit because I'd never really considered the fact that maybe Shooter was on purpose either trying to put us in the Beyonders in the guise of the Beyonder herself and be confused, or he was pandering from children. I'm not sure, but I am confused. So maybe it was purposeful, but that was pretty cool. I'd never considered that. I've read this book several times over the years. So the story is not great, but it's not bad. Here's the biggest issue I have with the story. It's about 5 pages too long. A lot of this stuff could have been taken care of in about 3 pages, 2 panels. All right. He's learning how to eat. He messes up. He moves on. They don't make 2 pages out of it. And basically every scenario in this is like that. He's tailing Spider-Man for like 4 pages back to his apartment. It's just way too long. I know they want to get some exposition done, but it just drug in points. This reminds me a lot of when we reviewed Captain America 350, when it was just constant text walls everywhere, just barraging you with it. And you didn't really get too many panels so you could take off. You're just reading something constantly. And, that's not usually a problem. It's not a big deal, but it can get a little fatiguing when you're trying to absorb things. So all that being said, I'm not going to be quite as harsh on it because Beyonder is an omnipotent being in his own reality, but he is not omnipotent in this one. And while you can read minds, you can read mine and say, what do I do when I drink something? So he picks up this glass and he does that. What's the drink? Is it the glass it's held in there? Is it the color? I mean, you have no reference of it. So this book spends a lot of time trying to give reference to all the minutia that we take for granted. You know what I mean? Is that exciting for a comic book? No. So that's a huge mistake. You don't title something Secret Wars. It's going to be talking about how you eat and how you move your bowels and all that good stuff. There is some charming endearment though. Like, it's like Opie meets the big city, gee whiz, what is that hot dog stand? What is that all about? Are they real dogs? That's the kind of mentality it is. And I think it kind of works, turning this basically omnipotent being into a child. It's good. I don't like to see the Titans like pushed down like that. And if you really look at it too long, it doesn't make sense. And like Roger was saying, especially, did he forget everything that happened on Battle World that he set up? So I don't know. It bounces all over the place. The story wants to be good, and then in some places it fails. It wants to be brief, but it drags on like crazy. It's really hard to nail this thing down. The only thing I was really torn about was what grade to give it, like a 2 or 2.5, right? And I think there's just enough here for me to be interested in another read or another issue to probably just bump it up to 2.5 serviceable. Once again, I like the Beyonder. A lot of people don't. I do like that he's talking to a very, I don't even want to use the word diverse, but a very large sect of people. He's talking to street bums. He's talking to superheroes. He's getting knowledge from all over the place. And while he doesn't wait around too long to get that stuff done, I mean, in most cases, like he talks to Reed for like 3 seconds or, whatever, 3 answers, and then he just moves on again. But once again, he's processing like a child. Everything is in the here and now. You don't have the answer. I'm moving on to the next thing and go, 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 go. So, whether it's slipshod writing or completely purposeful and it's just beyond me, it's really hard to tell. So I'm going to give this a 2.5. Not great. And it's not something I want to read a lot of, but it did kind of intrigue, and it gets the point across. It hammers it across fact, but it also hammers across the point that Sue needs to get over her damn self. My gosh, you got the Beyonder appears after this battle, right? He appears. He just wants to talk and learn about stuff, right? She's like, "No, Reed, you need to pay attention to my needs right now."
It wasn't even that big of a deal. Like, what was she? What was going on with her? That was so.
She was freaking out, man. I was like, "Oh."
I don't think Sue is that
2.5.
needy. Man.
No.
Listen, if you're married for a period of time, you know what she means. Okay.
No, Reed, I need you.
Sometimes you have to be able to be a husband first and foremost, and that is what he wasn't being at that point.
I know. Well, let's see. The fate of the cosmos, or let's keep Sue happy for 10 more minutes.
Again,
we know which way we're going to.
Cosmos.
Yeah, us married guys know.
Is at play here too.
That irked me. But yeah, I just thought, there was it's just weird, man. I just can't nail this one down that well. Childlike wonder, incompetent writing, or next level writing that I just can't comprehend all of it. Whatever, it's there.
I'm with you. I didn't get it. It's beyond me. I admit that.
So
yeah.
Was it beyond the chat? Let's find out right now. So let your voices be heard and throw your scores out right now for this very different story. And you know what? This would have been a good 3-shot book or something, and it doesn't have to have the title Secret Wars, The Beyonder. Just call it The Beyonder or something.
Yeah, that was a good point that you made of this is not Secret Wars is not an appropriate title.
No, there's no secret. He everybody knows he's the Beyonder. And there's no warring here, except maybe in his own mind, the struggles that he's going through to get to realize the human experience.
Now it does ramp up. I mean, it
does ramp up, yeah. But another thing is, I didn't mention it, but man, I don't know. I wanted this to be over, like you said, 5 pages before the end. I mean, that's enough. Mm-hmm. I can only take so much of what is clothing, what is hunger. What everything is incomplete. You're hammering it into her head. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, too made him way too naive to be this godlike being. If eternity comes to Earth, is he like, why do you wear clothes? Right? He's kind of the embodiment of Earth or Universe 616, mm-hmm. right? So he knows what's going on. I mean, he doesn't have I don't think he's studying human beings. I mean, I guess the Beyonder doesn't have any other beings in his universe. He was just the universe itself. But
that's why he had Secret Wars 1, because he saw that there was something else and he wanted to understand
mm-hmm.
who they were and their desires. But it's never referenced here.
Yeah.
No, or nobody even mentions that oh, wait a minute, aren't you the guy that destroyed a galaxy in our last encounter with you?
I mean, Peter Parker and Mr. Fantastic knew who he was, and he knew that they were there, but he didn't get anything. He didn't learn a thing.
No,
there was pretty good comedic beats in it though. The scene when he pops up on Reed Richards, he pops up and the first thing he says is hallucination why there is eating?
Yep.
And Reed's like, what? It's so absurd, It's
absurd. Yeah, because Spider-Man said that when he's like, man, I haven't eaten, so maybe I'm hallucinating. When he saw the guy on the first floor, and then and he was like, oh, that's why, maybe. It's so bizarre, man.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
So dumb.
And dumb.
Get your
maybe it's so smart that it's not dumb, but at least to me, I'm dumb because I didn't get it.
Shooter's putting the reverse psychology on us. It's so smart, it's beyond us. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, right? We're only Stephen Hawking and Jim Shooter know what's going on in this book.
Of course, a brief history of comics, yeah. But yep, just a few more seconds to get your votes in, guys. We need a lot more. We only got 5 this time, or 6. So let's go. Let your score, let your ones and zeros be heard.
Gino, in this case, I can't blame them if they didn't read this. Okay,
a lot of people said they were having trouble finding it.
Or if they found it and they read the first 5 or 6 pages and they're like, not even for graders notes am I reading this thing.
Oh, see, we did get some more grades. It just took a little prompting, that's all.
Probably the lowest grades. My highest grade on the book is the lowest grade from the chat, it seems.
Well, Kenny, I think you're trying to be the nicest guy possible. You're digging deep to find the diamonds in the deep rough.
I guess.
Always look for
From the cover of the art, I was predisposed to not like it. I did find some charm to it, but it's dumb.
Who learns? Yeah, it's dumb. That's what.
It's dumb. Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh man, is right. So what did the chat bring up here?
Tabulating now.
Tabulating.
I had to redo it.
Oh, and I want to mention one thing was like I was reading the chat and Sleepy Reader was saying it's like it doesn't have any of the like it's odd, but it doesn't have any of the whimsy. Like it doesn't have that kind of tongue in cheek for the adult kind of person. And I think that's a good point. Like it's missing that sort of, like in Guardians of the Galaxy where they always had kind of an over the top, even in Ant-Man, which is more of a family film. They still had a bit of entendre to people in, and they did that in a lot of comic books too, but not this one. This one was straight up. You guys are all idiots.
It's like a Three Stooges kind of comedy. It's physical comedy, but no wit behind it.
Yeah, sorry you mixed it, Alex. We're gonna go ahead and with Alex's score in there, actually, and good to see you too, Mr. Hero Reviews. I've recently cracked the 1,000 club.
Ooh,
congratulations. Eating the Hobbit. Did you see his unboxing the other day, or his new comic book day when he was eating the hot spicy wings?
Yeah,
no.
Watch that one.
Yeah,
he gave it all for that one. Let me tell you.
That's dedication there for you.
So the chat comes in.
He ate hot and spicy wings.
Yeah, they were like atomic. I can't remember where he got them from, and he was washing it down with beer. He wouldn't even drink milk. He was just pouring sweat, and he kept chewing on the camera and all that. Oh, it's hilarious. He was hurting, but he stuck with it. So 1.5 for the chat. So they're kind of in agreement with the lower rungs of storytelling here. So all right, we are down to it now. Look
what Mark Knapp put on there.
I was going to say that. Whoa! Wait a minute. You paid $6.85 American for that?
Oh, maybe we should think of reimbursing Mark for this one.
Yeah.
Is
that with shipping?
Is that with shipping? Yeah. I mean, if that was shipping, you still overpay. But if it was shipping above that, you really overpaid.
So I figured this, was still cover price or something, but
$80, I'll get you the rest of them.
Yeah. He was willing to let it go. The choice of comic, choice of comic was picked. I had two different, I had one issue from Secret Wars 1 and one from 2, but I gave it a blind test to the chat to pick one. They wanted to hear something from Secret Wars 2, so that's how this came to be, by the way. So
yeah.
Okay. Yes, I counted your 0. What'd you say there, Dave?
It was a blind pick. I don't think they would have picked it on purpose.
We warned him. We gave him a chance because it could have been Secret Wars 10, and that's one of my top 5 all-time covers. So, let alone it's a great book too. It's the best book in the whole story, I think. So,
yeah.
That's no comparison.
But anyway, they get what they want.
And that's a shooter story too, right? Like,
yep.
I'm sure they brought shooter back for this one. Put some of that shooter magic into this. And just,
they did their first. Marvel did their first press conference because of Secret Wars 1. I learned that when I did the Beatty interview. They flew all those guys out to California, and it was like the very first one they've ever done as Marvel, like a serious one. So it was huge, man.
Yeah, Secret Wars 1 was huge.
Yeah,
it was a big deal. It changed comics forever. That series did.
Yeah.
Yeah, do not let your kids watch this one if you're afraid of
I didn't say it.
Yeah.
I said the first part of it, but I didn't say the whole thing.
Oh no, I was talking about the new comic book day. The Superior did. Those wings were tearing him up, man. He spent most of the episode like this. It's good.
Yeah, that was a bit hard to watch. Yeah.
All right, so here comes. What's that?
I hate hot food, like spicy food. I hate it.
I don't mind it. I don't like painful.
I like it, but not that hot.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into what I'm sure is going to be a slaughter here. Let's talk about the concept of the book. I'll go ahead and lead this one off since I don't think I've started the category yet. It's only fair, right? And the concept. Give me 1 second. And go. So concept. Well, I usually look at these concepts from a little bit different viewpoint than most of my co-hosts here, and that I usually look also, or at least try to include in monetary aspects, right? Because the number one goal of comics is to sell comics. They are a business. Everyone wants them to write stories just for the reader, but you also got to write for the person that's spending the money too, right? And it's not always just the reader. It could be the speculator. Who knows what it is? But the point being is sometimes I always like to consider that. So the concept of this book is cash grab, and the whole series is just cash grab. Secret Wars was a big hit 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, however long it was between. I can't remember exactly. Let's see. 85. So yeah.
The year before.
About a year and a half, something like that. So yeah, how do we capitalize on that? Let's make another one. We'll slap Secret Wars on it. We'll throw the Beyonder at it and go. It's some of the worst kinds of concepts that you can have for a book, just to ride the coattails. And it wasn't even something that they did like 10 years prior. This is like you said, only like a year and a half, something like that. So I can understand striking while the iron's hot, but I don't know. Man, this is another one that's kind of hard for me, but only thing that makes it even slightly difficult is I just know this book made money, right? And once again, that's kind of the end goal of at least Marvel's part. For us as the reader, I don't know. You put the Beyonder on Earth, you basically completely reverse his role. He is basically the one above all, at least in his section or his own universe, right? And then when he comes over to our universe, he's omnipotent. He's the most powerful being there is here, other than maybe the one above all or the living tribunal. We don't know. We never see a match up against him, not the real Beyonder, right? And then you make him completely weak and helpless, right? So there is that kind of a nice bait and switch, not really bait and switch, but there's a nice like breakdown of the character itself. It's like, okay, he can be vulnerable too. And even though he's not technically vulnerable, it's weird. It's just a strange story. You don't take Zeus from Olympus and then take his powers away and have him walking around on Earth like Cain and Kung Fu, right? He's always still Zeus. So it's really hard for me to take the Beyonder and make him human and really invest in him and worry about his health and well-being. Is he going to fall off that building and die? No, he's not going to fall off that building and die. He's the Beyonder. Even though he says he's fully human, it shows many times in the story that he can use his powers at will, right? So it's just a strange dichotomy here. Because the concept itself is not that good outside of cash grab. It just isn't. It would have been better served, like I said before, call it the Beyonder, or the Beyonder comes to Earth, 5-part miniseries or 3-part miniseries, and then get it over with. But there's not really a war here. It has little to nothing to do with the original, other than knowing who the Beyonder is and him knowing where to go. But why didn't he go see the Kree Empire or any other powerful civilization? Why do you have to go to Earth? Not all the mightiest heroes are there. Why didn't he hang out with Galactus or Eternity? Get some answers there and work his way down. That's where the guys on top go. They go to the top themselves. So it's just strange. I don't think they had a real good grasp on what the Beyonder really was, other than omnipotent, and it's hard. You write yourself into a corner very easily with characters like this. So I don't know, man. This has got cash grab written all over it. It doesn't seem to be in keeping with the original character. There is some charm, like we talked about earlier, of seeing the Beyonder, humbled, I guess, of his own volition. I don't know. I give it 2.5 once again, just because it made money. It was a good business decision, but it really wasn't the best decision overall for the property itself. And but you can't argue with the results. It sold a lot of copies, so it's really more of a 2. You know what? I'm dropping it down to a 2. There's nothing original here, other than, and that's what breaks up the whole point, is you completely reverse the main protagonist. You take him from up here and bring him way down here and make him clueless, and then at the mercy of others somewhat, but he's not ever at mercy. So it's just weird. 2, made a lot of money, but it really just wasn't the property. It wasn't how the property should have been laid out. Let me switch this over here, and let's go to Kenneth over here, waiting in the wing. So, Kenny, my friend, what did you think about Jan concept of this book?
Yeah, I mean, granted, I haven't completed the series. I've read the first 3 issues of the series when this came up. So I don't know how it ends, but so far, the kind of same frustrations that I had with what I thought was like a bait and switch cover. really gets amplified here with the theme too, or the concept of I don't think Secret Wars is an apt, I think just because it's Beyonder, they're gonna call this thing Secret Wars 2. We'll see where it goes, but it doesn't seem to be leading into that really being an accurate thing that people are signing up for. If the first 3 issues, considering where I am at the end of issue 3, I'm feeling like I'm not really being sold an accurate bill of goods. And, regardless if they sold copies, I will, as opposed to Gino, unlike Gino, I will not reward these scoundrels for, lying to the American comic book buyer. Shame on them for making all that money off this. Beyonder coming to Earth, like if I execution aside, like just the idea of, okay, Secret Wars 1 was Marvel's heroes go to Beyonder's battle world. Secret Wars 2 is Beyonder comes to Earth. That in its seed is cool. You could sign up for that, So that's why I can't like totally hammer it, I guess, since I haven't seen where it goes. So it's tricky for me to rate. If I'm just basing it off this issue, which is, I guess, is what we do with Concept a lot, this issue is not a good issue 1 for Secret Wars 2. You know what I'm saying? Very weird, very wonky, all that. So just going off what I've read, cash grab faux show, very, weird. And like, you could almost say it's like zany artistic, like, boy, these guys really went out there. But to Metarog's point when he was discussing the writing, it's not focused enough to really be making a salient point. It's like childish gags, and they don't seem to be digging into this analysis of humanity from the Beyonder enough to make it, to be able to call it that, to be able to say, oh, this is them, letting the artistic juices flow, and they're not telling the conventional superhero story. They didn't do enough to earn that badge. It just looks like poor execution. You know what I'm saying? So with all that said, I think I'm just going to hit this one with a 1.5. Like, it shouldn't get some obscenely low grade like the cover did, because just the mere concept of Beyonder comes to Earth, fine, that's acceptable. But a lot of the shenanigans that went along with it keep it stunted at a 1.5, baby.
All right, 1.5 it is. Let me just get that down in the old book here. 1.5. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get the other of the more restrained people, because I can tell Miracle's chomping the bit, so you always let rage build.
The buffer, Metarog's a buffer to Miracle.
If you have children on morning now, you might want to put them away in about 3 minutes. So, all right, so Roger, let us know about what your thoughts on the concept of this book are.
Well, like the story, the concept is difficult to. Okay. Obviously, every comic, except for maybe some primers or whatever, you want to sell. Of course, you have overhead, you have salaries, families, etc. So I get that, right? And because Secret Wars 1 was such a phenomenon, and I'm saying huge phenomenon, because I was there. Trust me. I mean, you had to fight people off to get the next issue, right? And then. They weren't sure it was going to be that big, although, they had some inklings. Obviously, you're going to do a follow-up because, you have to ride the wave while it's there, right? So I don't blame that so much because, hey, wouldn't we do the same thing? If we had a concept that worked, we're going to try to follow it up. But it is so disingenuous based upon the structure of the first Secret Wars, and then coming to this, that you're right. The title here it's all based upon, trying to grab your attention or your thoughts from the first series, although it is, honestly, it couldn't be more different. I mean, even going forward. But this issue especially was very different, right? So, yeah, I mean, I give it credit because I think exploring the human condition to somebody who has no reference point could be interesting. I really do think so. And I think Shooter, uses a lot of subtext to sort of push forward a lot of ideologies and philosophies here, from existentialism to maybe even, consumerism, et cetera, et cetera. So I like that the concept possibilities that are here, but the execution was just so absurd and childish and banal and confusing that it didn't flesh out. And so I can't give the concept a much higher grade, because even though it was there, the execution has to, it's like, you have two paddles on a canoe. If you have just one, you're going round and round. You need both to go forward. And this just went round and round and round and round. It didn't want me to go forward with this series, honestly. And let me tell you, I bought every one of these. I brought every crossover. I was suckered into it, thinking it would get better, thinking that it was going to be some kind of, groundbreaking event. It really wasn't. I don't like the crossover aspect when it was forced. There were one or two issues that were critical to the crossovers, but having like 5 every week, that was a little much for the cash grab part of it. I would have given it a 2, except that they really dropped the ball by doing all those crossovers, and most of them were tangential at best, but they had the little banner in it. But we're talking about just this issue, right? So I wanted to give it a 2, but man, the concept is way too muddled and way too poorly executed. 1.5.
All right, 1.5. Oh boy, concept is getting it. It's getting it, but it's to be expected. I think we all knew this was going to happen here. I had to fix that over there. All right, so last but certainly not least, we have the cataclysmic event is coming in, the extinction event. You are the comet 65 million years ago, sir. Lay it down upon us. What do you think about the concept of this book?
C'est moi? Oh, yeah. Guys. Well, I mean, the obvious concept is let's sell a whole bunch of comic books. But they went over the damn top. I remember, I bought this off the rack, and there was, crossover stories that you had to, buy this Fantastic Four issue with, buy this Avengers one, and buy this X-Men crossover, buy this and buy that. It was beyond a cash grab. And it was books like this, I think this book really was that slow as, coming over the hill and going in that downward trend towards that 90s failure of the comics. It started with stupid books like this, right? There's 3 things you can have when you're talking about business. You can have it cheap, fast, or correct, right? No, or good quality. And these guys, you can only have 2, and these guys picked fucking cheap and fast for this one, right? They tried to pump out as much of this, book as they can, pump out as many crossovers as they can, so that people who, weren't real fans of the Fantastic Four had to buy it. Otherwise, this issue makes even less sense than what it did, right? They got, what's all this stuff with the hate monger and who's this guy in shadows? And then you had to buy, this X-Men one to know what he was talking about when he was talking about, when I met Rachel, and you have to buy this, Avengers book to make this plan. But not only that, they sneak in a few because all of a sudden Scourge comes out of somewhere and kills somebody, right? Remember Scourge? Remember when they had the whole Marvel kill-off thing? Metarog probably?
Yep, sure do.
Yeah, right. So
Captain America.
So then they pop out Scourge, right? It's like, wait a minute, unless you've read all those Captain America issues and stuff like that, you're not going to know who this guy is. And, Psycho Man is all part of Silver Surfer and stuff. So it's really, let's take this naive guy and figure out a way of advertising all the other books that we're selling, and then make it a comic book. And then we'll make it 9 comic books, and we'll do it, right? F off. This kind of stuff, I'm sure fans were choked, because a lot of the good FF stories storylines that were happening got interrupted for stupid things with the Secret Wars 2. And it's true, lots of Spider-Man stuff got mixed in there. And it wasn't just crossover with Amazing, we'll crossover with Spectacular, we'll crossover with this, we'll crossover with that. It's you cheap cunts, right? And and this was the beginning of the downfall of the Beyonder. Who was just saying that? Over Easy Mode was saying they took away the mystery of the Beyonder. And it's true. And it's just like the Phantom Menace took away the mystery of the Force, right? The Beyonder was this cool thing that was a universe, and it was kind of empowered. And I mean, we could continue on and on and on, all the way up into the new X-Men Illuminati stupidity that they did with the Beyonder. Like, it's just like they just ruined this character, and this was really, really his downfall. He was ruined so much that he couldn't even be the most powerful character in the Marvel Universe anymore. They had to make the one above all, right? Because, the Beyonder was a joke. And it started with the stupidity in Secret Wars 2. It was rushed out. It was underfunded. It was poorly conceptualized to run the crossover rampant across the entire comic book spectrum. And I mean, and it went on and on with this with Marvel. They still do it where they have massive crossover events. Luckily, there's better writers, or at least they take their time in writing and plotting out things like Civil War or whatever for a comic book event. But this is like the first one. Like, I know they had Secret Wars, but there's really only like a couple crossovers with the original Secret Wars, like Amazing Spider-Man 252, where they all come back kind of deal, right? But this one, they just went on and on for 9 months, crossovering this, crossovering that. You would have had to have a stack of books this big. I mean, we see it now with Death in the Family and stuff like that, and the Batman books that had a million crossovers. But this, at least they were half thought out, half well written stories. Not this crap that they're just trying to crap out along the whole craptastic line of crap books that they craply put on your crap shelves, right? So that's crap off.
Hey, my shelves out.
I hate the idea of it. I think Shooter was a fool for bringing the Beyonder into this stupidity. He could have taken it somewhere else and made it cool. He could have had okay, we've had superheroes versus superheroes. Maybe next time we have this civilization versus these guys. They could have done a ton of different things rather than make him a chump coming to Earth, right? Okay, I think I'm done. I did not like the concept of this book. I did not like having all these stories rammed down my throat. I did not want to buy every single comic book Marvel had on the shelf that month in order to follow any little story that had to do with this series. So concept-wise, one, right? But just because it was a little bit groundbreaking in that it brought the whole thing into it, but it was just way overdone and just way stupid. Like, stupid. Kenny's said it best when he said stupid. Right? It's dumb.
Yeah. Well, they learned their lesson well, because then we got Acts of Vengeance, Operation Galactic Storm. We got a lot of nice crossovers. Not too long after this.
Maybe
but at least move the story along in those issues. These were just like and a gratuitous appearances that really went nowhere for the most part. There were some, but for the most part.
Like, how long do you think they thought about this concept? They were like in an office meeting and they came up with it. They didn't like plot everything out, because this book came out less than a year after Secret Wars 1 ended, right? So they rushed it in there. They were penciling like crazy, and they were like, don't just pencil that. Let's pencil 40 issues of everything we were going to do all the way to the back. No plan. I remember this series, and I swear they were writing it. They were throwing like darts at a dartboard. Okay, we'll get them to go do this, right? Like, dumb things.
I'm just curious. Did any of you guys notice the editor of this book?
Bob
Badansky.
Yeah.
But was he really, or is he?
I don't think he was.
I mean, Shooter probably had a lot to do with the crossover thing too,
And Peyton Manning had a coach too, right? So telling him the plays. So
I'm sure this was not Bud Badansky's idea, or if he might have said, it's a good idea, because Badansky was a good marketer.
Mm-hmm.
He knew how to appeal, stuff to kids. So he's like, yeah, that's a good idea, but maybe you guys should think it over a little bit farther and come up with a good story, right? Like,
I think he was in charge of special projects at this time, so he did a lot of the wonky stuff because he moved into the editing, a little more editing than that. You can see all this in my interview that I did with Bob Badansky about 5 months ago.
Excellent.
Nice plug.
But, easy plug.
Yeah,
right?
I'm sure he just rubber stamped this, right? Like,
it's Shooter writing. What are you going to say to him?
This was in the works, right? Even during Secret Wars. I remember reading during the time that, hey, there's a sequel being planned. I mean, it was like number 6, issue 6, and already there were.
Kenny, all right? Oh, I thought you paused there. You were
Get your
you were
scores
so
in, by
quiet.
the way, chat.
Yeah, we'll get the chat.
I have a new internet system. I think I'm good.
Yeah, chat. So give us your scores real quick for the concept, and we'll
Yeah,
talk a little bit more, and then. But yeah, what's Bob gonna say? Jim, no, this isn't working for me, man.
You're fired,
Jim Juder. But
apparently
I don't
Shooter
know.
was quite a jerk too.
Well, you know, you got the whole comics industry on your shoulders for a couple of years. It might make a tyrant out of you. You know.
Yeah,
You might have to.
But I mean, I guess he was just like really hard to work with. He could yell at people.
I've heard differing things about him, you know,
But
and all of them said he was
a
strict.
genius, though. I mean, the fact how remember Marvel was kind of falling apart editorially before he got there, and he coalesced. This editor was doing that. This editor was doing no. He goes, no, we're all on the same page now. Tight continuity, and that he was. I appreciate that. Now, whether he was a tyrant, I don't know, but talented, absolutely.
Maybe he needed to be a tyrant to get everybody back on track, right? Maybe that's just.
I was going to say, Kenny can probably vouch for this. I've been on a lot of construction sites, man. You cannot give an inch when you're dealing with people with a bunch of alphas. No offense to people who can't handle that term, but if you're dealing with a bunch of alphas or people who think they're alphas, you gotta rule them with the iron fist, or they'll just walk all over you.
Yeah, and, I think strong editors with strong opinions and keep talent in line is something that's missing from modern day comics. Honestly.
Probably, yeah. I think, these guys all work from home, right? They don't have to go down to 387.
Yeah, and sometimes a lot of like the overarching stories that's going on in the universe don't have cohesive of enough, feel or storyline to them, and I feel like everyone's doing their own thing, and they could benefit from in quality control. There's a lack of quality control in some of the shit that gets put out.
There's so many books.
Shooter would read the story right before it would be published, and he'd say, "Oh no, you can't put that panel because he was in Canada." So it's a heat wave. Can't be. He was in Canada in the winter. So he would do all those kinds of picayune details for continuity's sake.
That's what an editor is supposed to do.
Yeah, right.
He's real editor.
He invested there. Yeah, absolutely.
Another minor plug for the interview, as I always ask this people who worked in the time. It's like, what was the difference working under Shooter and then DeFalco? And Bob says, if you put something that Jim thought was trash on his desk, he said, you're not going to publish that, and we won't have an issue this month, because he wasn't going to put it out. And Tom DeFalco would say, "The hell with it, we'll get it next month." So, he was strict, but he wasn't as strict as Jim. So it is what it is. Let me start tabulating scores. While I'm doing that, I think an interesting concept for this book would have been so much better. Would be him just coming in and like smacking around all the cosmic beings first. You know what I mean? Because like I said, I think he should start at the top. So first thing he does and comes and talks to Ego or Eternity or Galactus. Like, oh, you seem to have some power. What's going on here?
Well, like, why wouldn't he try and go talk to someone more on his own level, like Eternity, right? Like, why wouldn't he pop in here and be like, "Hey, you're your universe too. What's up with your multiplicity and why do you eat?" Right? Like,
it was funny because that's the way they operate. Because Eternity and Infinity Gauntlet, he wouldn't talk to anybody except for the Living Tribunal. So like, you're the only one I recognize as a peer here. Because
it was a little too much. It was like, not only was it fish out of water story, it was fish out of water, out of ecosystem, out of atmosphere, out of galaxy.
Out of mind.
Out of mind, dude.
I'd like to see a galactic war. That would have been cool. I
think it's almost like he was living in a 2-dimensional world and he moved to a 4-dimensional world. He doesn't know which way is up, literally. I mean, when he falls off the building. So
maybe the other way around. Maybe he's a 4-dimensional being that went to a 2-dimensional world.
Yeah, true enough.
I didn't really mind that so much because once again, he doesn't really have a concept of that where he's at because he's everything. So, but it's hard to write for something like that. It really is. No. Sorry, I'm going to do some counting.
You're painting yourself into a corner though, because again, you have a being that if you can say he can read minds, right, and that he is all powerful, you're sort of saying, well, he can do it, but he didn't do it. So is he just naive or is he just flat out stupid? And there's a big difference there when you consider that, right? But here it's really going toward the stupidity, not the naive stuff.
Just finishing up, the chat score overall was a 1, so pretty low from the chat.
Whoa.
They were not enamored with the idea either. And you know, once again, with sequels, sometimes this could be a detriment, but usually you want to go bigger, right? So bigger. They've had Battleworld, they fought all of Earth's heroes. Now, why not make it more of a galactic conflict? You know, there was a little bit of that with the Mephisto kind of sideline going on here in later episode or later issues,
and the Molecule Man too.
Mm-hmm. But it's like, it's like you don't bring it to a grinding halt and bring it down to the lowest level when you had it at such a large level before. You usually raise the stakes. You know?
Yeah, you're right. You know what would have been a good idea if you would have just done a Beyonder and Molecule Man kind of dynamic, because they're very powerful. Molecule Man is very powerful. He can control essentially everything that's matter, right? And he is very prominent in this series, but again, you know, it's like he just sort of forgets things, and then he goes on to the next thing. He goes to meet Dazzler because he thinks she's attractive. Then he goes to see the Thing to see why he fights off this horde of people. It's so unfocused that was the problem. A 4-issue miniseries figuring out what humanity really wants and really is with the Molecule Man and his relationships would have been plenty, but not this everywhere with everybody and nothing focused at all.
I think Shooter could have come up with a better idea.
Yeah, it's a shame because once again, I like the character Beyonder, at least in the first Secret Wars, because like most people said, he's kept kind of mysterious. But I just love the concept of a guy being an entire universe by himself. He's actually in a universe. He's not a guy or anything. He's just a universe that cracked into ours by accident. I think that's cool. That's a cool concept, I think.
A universe with a consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, he has potential to be anything and everything. I think it is a cool concept. But here, it's just so absurdly posed to us, and honestly, insultingly so, that you're right. It should have gone to a much higher level. Do eagles, you know, strive to see where insects go?
It's like writing a Superman miniseries, taking away all his powers. You don't want to watch him as Clark Kent every week. You know, that's not why people read Superman. You know, they like that aspect that he can fake it, but they don't want to see him permanently like that. So yeah, it's just ill-advised. But anyway, we've harped on that one, I guess. But
we've beat that horse to death. There's not even bones left.
All right. Well, Miracle, I'm too lazy to move you, so you just want to go over your overall score with us real quick and give us your highlights.
Like I said, cover awful, interior art. All I gotta say about the interior art, right? Come on, there you go. Oh no, Home Alone, Spider-Man. So no good. You know, I didn't like the interior art. Concept of the book was, you know, let's cross over everything and make everybody buy everything. Story in the book was just so many better things, so much potential that could have been done. Even this story itself could have been done and presented much better. And so there wasn't much to like about this. I just, you know, a little smattering here, a little funny quip there, but other than that, I wouldn't recommend this book, and I gave it a 1.5.
All right, 1.5 is there. So, Roger, you're the next closest, so let's go ahead and go with you next. So, what say you, sir? What's your overall score?
You know, I think when the cover is the highest grade, you know there's trouble down the pike, right? And because I give the cover the lowest as far as the echelon of grades. I give that the lowest. That's sort of like just the outside of the front door. You know, you have the whole house, the building, etc. And in this one, you know, it was literally an ethereal house of cards. It was all an illusion. That it sort of wanted to drag you a certain way because of Secret Wars 1, and then you find this out that is really more of a allegorical and philosophical attempt than a coherent comic book story. At least that's the way I'm interpreting it. I guess I'm dumb, right? So Shooter knows what he's doing. I have no idea. Okay, but if that's the case, for me personally, I can't give this the higher end of the score because the concept and the story are what really are integral to me to want to not only read this comic but continue on in the series. And I think that's the important part, because once you close off the reader into the series, you have failed. Okay. And there's still 7 issues to go. I bought them all. Don't get me wrong. I bought them all, right? Because I was a nerd and I was, just hoping and praying that this was something special. And I was totally let down, except a little bit at 9. There were some flashes where he grew. But in this particular issue, I can't give it the next bump up. I think my aggregate would be like almost 2, but again, I have to bump it down because the story was such a muddled confusion of I don't know what, philosophies and undertones of childlike behavior and absurd slapstick panels that really didn't make a coherent story. It gets there eventually, I guess, a little bit, but even then, it's not really. I can't grade that, the issues down the line. I'm grading this one. So yeah, I'm with Miracle, 1.5.
That's a low mark from Bedrock.
Yeah.
Yep. It has to be fairly poor or disappointing to get that kind of score from our illustrious leader over there. So, Kenneth, man, bring it home. Are you going to deviate from the norm here, or are you kind of falling in line with the rest of our cohorts and not liking this too much?
I got to say, man, in hearing, I just felt genuinely a little hurt from hearing Metarog describe young Metarog, young lad Metarog, who loved Secret Wars 1. Like, when I think of this in the perspective of it coming out on a monthly basis, like, that part just sunk into me when you described going shop and collecting them all. Because thus far, I've been thinking of it in hindsight as a retrospective collected edition. But damn, when I think about it, young Metarog, big Marvel fan, read Secret Wars 1, loved it. It was a big to do. Secret Wars 2 comes out. You're like, oh yeah, baby, here we go. Let's get back into this. And to picture Roger going to the shop and picking up this issue in particular, and like, oh, maybe the first one was a fluke or whatever, and to pick up this next one and finish that book and be like, man, no excitement in that issue. The heroes were barely in it. I'm just following this Jamoke who doesn't know up from down, and it's just all slapstick. Like, I could picture someone just being really dejected with it, but with enough loyalty to the brand to shell out the dough and keep the hope going every month. And that's like textbook cash grab. That's the dark side of cash grab. Like, kudos to them for, hey, they made money and we want to keep Marvel healthy as a company and all that. But, you're bumming out, young Metarog, dude, who's trying to get a good series going. And, maybe he's delivering papers and mowing lawns and stuff. And it's like, you owe it more to your fans than to make Secret Wars 2 this. Anyway, overall, the cover was trashola. I gave it a 0.5. The art inside was like 1.5, just serviceable by definition, legible, you know what I'm saying? But it was an in-flight manual, basically, artistic-wise. The story, it was the highest grade, 2.5, because if you followed it beat to beat, I did find some spots enjoyable, and some of the gags were funny and all that. But when you stop in the sobering thought of what is actually going on here, it snaps you out of it, and it put a ceiling on the grade. Concept, obviously, as I said, breaking young guy Marvel fans' hearts, man. So big no on the concept. So overall, I'm just gonna give this thing a 1.
Man, coming in seriously.
For 12-year-old Metarog, I'm giving it a 1.
It was 19-year-old Metarog, by the way.
19-year-old.
And I was working at a restaurant, not mowing lawns.
Yeah.
But other than that, you encapsulated my experience perfectly.
Gotcha. He's beating up like little 12-year-olds for that comics. Get away from me, you punk ass. Move.
The first,
I was mowing lawns.
I was
babysitting.
I had to pull some rank there at the LCS for the first Secret Wars, but for the second one, we had plenty.
Yeah, I'm sure. We had plenty. Yeah.
I wasn't quite collecting comics. I think I was 2 years from when I started collecting, so I was a little behind the horn, I guess. But I guess it's my turn, huh? If anyone actually wants to hear. But
1920. Yeah.
I had not read this book. Just a quick disclaimer: I had not read this book since probably the '80s. Maybe I might have picked it up once in like the '90s sometime, just for a casual read. But this book did something that you don't ever like to have happen. That's to kind of take the shine off an apple you remember eating and loving so much in 1988 or 9. You know what I mean? You hate to see things you used to think might have been decent, kind of trashed. And, 13-year-old me probably saw a lot more in this little series than, well, 44-year-old me. But so I'm going to deviate from the norm a little bit at the end, but let's go ahead and just go through it real quick. I gave the cover 2.5, serviceable. Look, I mean, it's nothing great, but there was enough there to make it interesting. It does look like something I'd like to buy, just on the cover alone. It's like, oh, looks like something cool is going to happen inside. And little did we know. The interior art was, I think, a little above serviceable. It was my highest grade. It was a 3. It got the job done. There are some wonky faces. There's occasional anatomy problems. There's a general flatness look of it. But, I have seen worse. And it did convey the story pretty well, I think, for what they were trying to do. So just a 3, just a little bit above average, I'd say. Very workmanlike. So for the story, I gave it a 2.5. I kind of agreed with Kenny on this. There was just enough wonkiness here. And if you try to put yourself into the mindset of the Beyonder, there's probably a little more to be had here. It's mostly silly. It's mostly kind of a slog, but cool concept. It is an interesting concept. What happens when you make God man, So, higher themes. I don't know if that was even meant to be like thought about, but it is what it is. So I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was just kind of there. So 2.5 in that concept. I gave it a 2. And, you guys make some great points too, is like, from a business standpoint, we're going to sell a lot, but you don't want to ever piss off your core customer, right? Never do that. And if you put out something that's so trash that you get people to start thinking twice about buying your next miniseries, your next new comic, whatever it is, that's bad business. You have to walk that fine line. And we see what happened in the 90s when they quit caring about the line at all, So this was kind of one of the initial phases of that, of the great spec, boom that went on and basically destroyed the industry for many years afterwards. So, but I gave it a 2. It was mostly sound business decision. There was, I find the Beyonder an intriguing character, so I did want to read more about him. But it was way too rushed, and it was definitely a cash grab, and there's not much else you can say about the concept. So nothing really new there other than, bringing Zeus down to the wandering, wayfaring peasant. And so the overall score, mathematically speaking, in this was a 2.5, but I really don't think I'm going to knock half a point off it just for pissing me off and making it lose its luster in my memory. So I'm going to give this a 2 because I don't think the book really deserves much more than that. Maybe a kind of a cool, semi-cool concept, but I don't know, it let me down on so many levels. I wanted some action. It's a comic book, for God's sakes. Give me something. The only action was like one punch from Luke Cage in this entire thing, and then a couple of scenes of Beyonder falling off buildings.
After his rant about how much he loves money and how important money is, I thought that was weird. For Luke,
That was totally weird.
yeah,
It's
like,
cool. I did like that. No one else mentioned it. I did like how he turned the building into gold. I thought that was kind of a cool little quirk.
Yeah, we all forgot to mention the gold building. That was cool.
That was a funny way to end it.
That was the culmination of his experiences in this issue. If you notice, he took a little bit from everybody he talked to in the issue, and he came to the conclusion, he went through the different levels. Gold is the ultimate. So I'm going to, and there's not enough of it, so I'm going to create it. And again, you're looking at it from a very naive point of view. It's a black and white kind of experience that he's going through here. And he just didn't get it. He just could not even try to grasp what it meant to be human and to have these limitations in our world. He couldn't get it.
But that little scene was the only kind of cool scene where the concept kind of got worked in properly. You know what I mean? Like he would do stupid things like that if he was in this state.
Right.
But it still pisses me off because it led to one of the whiniest storylines in Spider-Man history when he stole the notebook. And then he had like, oh my God, what'll I do? I stole a notebook from an entire gold building, right? Like, it's like, come on, Peter, just pawn that shit and let's go. Like, stop with the tears already. Be a human being like everybody else.
And there were some interesting things came later on, like the whole workings in the background of Mephisto, which also formulated later on in like Infinity Gauntlet and all that. Which that was kind of cool. I liked how he like tricked basically every villain in the world to go after the Beyonder later on. Then you got the Molecule Man getting involved a little bit later on, not to any huge extent, but he's there. Could have been really cool, like him trying to stave off the Beyonder. If the Beyonder got pissed about something and decided to lay waste to the Earth, the only thing standing between it was him and the Molecule Man. That would have been kind of cool.
That would have been, yeah.
But like I said, just a lot of what ifs, and this would have actually been more suitable as a what if one shot. To be honest with you, shortened up probably.
Yeah. If this was a what if, I would be all over it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let me say that even though this book, like a lot of low grades across the board, still a great pick for the show though, Genome. So
yeah, brother.
Like if every episode of this show was, hey, we're gonna pick a book to gush over.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna say how much we love it and how everyone's a genius, and this, you guys would want to tune into that. So I like when we have a book like this, and Genome has no qualms over like, oh, are they gonna like my book or not? It's like, boom, drop. Let's revisit a book that I knew I liked years ago. Let's see if it holds up. I love that concept of let's see if this holds up. Let's see if that holds up. And let it play out, So good
one
pick.
of the concepts of my channel. Thanks.
And that's a different level of scrutiny that we have when we read a comic. Sometimes you read it through, you don't look, you don't experience the warts and the pitfalls and the different plot holes because you're entertained. But when you, like you said, Kenny, when you look at it with any kind of logic, it just falls apart completely.
Yeah.
And that's what we do here. We nitpick to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people might watch the replay to watch Dave go crazy. I've been doing another clip show before too much longer. But speaking of picks, I think it's about time to see the next one. And speaking of, it's going to be Dave's turn. So Dave, why don't you lay it on us? What are we going to be looking at next week or in 2 weeks from now?
I have the entry right here.
I haven't seen it yet, have I?
Nope.
No, I haven't shown anybody.
Oh,
I picked.
Hold on, let's do that.
Okay, I picked the first issue of The Max.
Whoa!
I've been seeing that all over the place lately. What's been going on with that book?
Ooh. Well, I don't know, but I've
been seeing it on Instagram a lot lately.
Have we done an image title before? Have we
I don't think so. Oh yeah, no, we did Wildcats, right?
Wildcats, yeah.
Yeah, with J Hood. Yeah.
J Hood, yeah.
This is back in that
Is that Sam Keith on there?
What's that?
Is that Sam Keith?
Is it Sam Keith?
He's on the inside. He does the inside too, right? Sam Keith?
Pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like him.
He's going to be an interesting artist for everyone to dissect. Sam Keith is interesting.
Maybe that's what it is, Jackson, because I've been seeing people talk about this book lately for some reason.
Oh, okay. I think I might have this.
I think
it's not expensive. It's like only $1 or $2.
Yeah, it's not expensive.
I think
unless you spec on it, then it's going to be like $20 for if it's on Miracle's next video.
Yeah, I have such a big influence on the market.
He's artificially inflating the market.
I might have that one.
Hey, yeah, we'll do the Max.
Let's do the Max.
You guys are cool.
All right, the Max it is.
Yeah. All right. Interesting.
I'm gonna give the cover a 2.3. All right, what else? Okay.
Who has the next? Am I the next pick after this one?
Let's see.
Yeah.
I was before and then Genome. Yep.
Okay. I'll start ruminating.
So start.
It's ruminating now. Well, Dave, I got you in the top corner. So what's going on with Mr. Miracle's channel in the near future?
Well, I put out my undervalued Star Wars video last week, which means next week will be another undervalued 5 video. That's really all I got going on right now on my channel. You never know. I might pop up here and there.
All right. Well, Kenneth, how about you? What's going on in the land of Comic Kid 84? Are there some great live streams?
Well, I'll tell you, man. Very exciting situation going on the 84 channel tomorrow night. I'm not an every week auction kind of guy, but when they pop up, we try to make them special. Bring, guys that you don't see auctioning all the time. We bring our buddies on. And there's some top shelf stuff. This is no different. myself, Mr. Hialeah Comic Bro, D-Runk Comics, and Mr. Biggie Shack. We're going to get together tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, for a hang, for some auctioning. But I would just like people to hang during the auction. So there's going to be there's a couple giveaways for sure. I'm actually buttoning up a little sketch cover. I like to give away sketch covers, but I also have some other stuff, something else in mind too. So yeah, that's the deal. Tomorrow night, if you're in the mood for that kind of thing or interested in browsing some books, come on down. Love to have you.
All right. Well, Roger, let me move you up here, of course, as befits your station. So, Roger, what's going on in the land of Channel Metarog here in the near future?
Also, I want to say that I'm really enjoying Kenny's top 10 wizard videos.
Thanks, man.
It's really on that. Back to to that time when talk about hype, right? I mean, this was a hype train back then.
So, thank you, man. I forgot to mention that. That's right.
You forgot, but the fans don't forget.
Thank you.
Obviously, I hope, right, that I'm going to be doing a support video this weekend sometime. I think I'm going to be on with our alumni Gray Man. He's doing a dinosaur cover stream or something, and he wants me on there.
Yeah, Dinosaur Rex. That's going to be my entry. All right.
Okay, so I guess I'm going to be on there. And then, of course, I have my special videos on Tuesday sometimes. Who knows what'll pop up, all kinds of obscura.
The last one was good. The X-Men promotionals. That was a good one.
X-Men promotionals. It's one of those things. I get like epiphanies. I don't really plan anything. It's sort of like, oh, I see that. I'm like, oh, well, why not, do something on that? And it's usually bizarre or obscure, but so I'll do something on Tuesday. And of course, the roundup every Thursday where everybody who does a contest, hopefully, are on there. And so we can support this great community by knowing what is on there for us to enter, get some prizes perhaps. But the main thing is to make sure that other channels are given their limelight here on YouTube.
All right, beautiful. And by the way, we mentioned Wizards. So according to Wizard Prize Guide, number 1, Secret Wars number 2 went for the princely sum of $1.75 in 1991. So
it's gone down in value.
Most of the books that I collected back then have. So, yeah, cool. Good to hear from you guys. Got interesting content coming up there. I myself have no idea from day to day what I'm going to be putting on my channel, as it were. But there's some loose planning up there. But I'll be streaming tomorrow night with Jay, aka Over Easy Mode. We do Friday night hangouts when we get on there. And usually talk about just about anything for about 3 to 4 hours. So come on by, let your voices be heard. We actually have a subject this week. It's going to be the most dangerous game. So for those of you who've never read the story, look it up online. It only takes about half an hour to read it at most. We may talk about the old movie too, and how it ties into a review that Jay did of another movie of a much more interesting name. So stay tuned for that tomorrow evening. Got more Star Trek Next Generation reviews coming around down the pipe. I have to get some more done. What am I on next? Too Short a Season. It'll be the next episode. So if you have not seen Too Short a Season and want to see it before my review, be sure to check it out. Don't say I didn't warn you. Music reviews, I'm a couple behind on that one. My comic book cover of the week, I've shelved that for a couple weeks. I need to get back into that. But my next big project is going to be getting my Day of the Dead review done. I watched it again the other day just because I love this movie so much. So that'll be the third part of my Romero zombie trilogy review. So stay tuned for that coming up in the near future. And everything else is just the constant randomness of my channel. Well, gentlemen, it's been another Graders Notes brought to fruition here. And any closing thoughts before we let our lovely chat go?
We did. Thank you for hanging out. Great turnout tonight.
Yeah, man. Great chat as always. Great pick there, I think, Miracle. I think it's going to be unusual in a sense because we're talking straight 90s stuff, the influx of image of the independents, the rise of the independents. We'll see if it holds up.
What a coup. I was out of the game by that point, but what a coup it was.
There was a like animated series that came out of this too.
Yeah.
Did you say
All
that?
right. Huh?
Did Midrock say that, or was I like?
Well, there's something in chat was saying they're talking about making either a show or a movie out of it. I think. Where did it go?
There was already one. It was like played on MTV.
Oh, did it? I haven't watched MTV in so long, so I wouldn't know. But
No,
all right.
Free, brother.
Well, thanks again for the great panel. We'll see you in 2 weeks on Mr. Miracle's channel, assuming you will still want to host it. And we're going to be talking about the Max. So have your books ready. I will try to order mine, and hopefully it'll come through. I'll try again. But once again, we want to thank everybody in the chat for making this my favorite show to do on my favorite thing to do on YouTube. Really, I just love doing this show so much, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. And stay tuned for more great comic book content from everyone else on this panel, and I guess me too, some way. So thanks again for hanging out with us for a couple hours, and we will talk to you guys in a fortnight. So till then, game on, read on, whatever it is you guys do. Just get out there and read comics. See ya.
Bye.